Hi, folks. Welcome back to Money and Politics. Wednesday, it's August the 25th. So we have, I think that's right. And we have just 1 week now left in 25, yeah. Just left in the month of August. And then Labor Day is coming up that weekend. The summers always go by in about 3 weeks' time, and then winter seems to last like about 9 months. So I'm not excited about the fact that winter is on its way. I do love fall, and of course, we're not here to talk about that. I wanted to, first of all, start off. A number of you may have been online last night. I was asked to participate on Twitter. There's my Twitter handle, on a thing called Twitter Spaces, which frankly, until I don't know, yesterday afternoon, I had never heard of before. And so the learning curve for me on some social media, and I'm no infant when it comes to social media. I'm on, a lot of platforms. But still, my social media education continues to evolve because I didn't know of Twitter Spaces. And it makes me wonder about what else do I not know that's out there I should know. That said, I wrapped up my video last night and said, because I got to join this thing, I really didn't know what the heck I was joining. It turned out to be a very interesting evening. And, if you follow me on and others on Twitter, which I'm presume you do, following people in Humble Nation, I thought I was going to talk for a half an hour, and I thought, well, okay, I can go for an hour. And then we went on and on and on, and I ended up spending 6 hours, which actually went by pretty fast, I have to say, and it was an enjoyable evening. So one of the things, I'm not going to talk all night about this, I'm just briefly, is not only did I learned from some other comments. I learned a couple of things that I didn't know, listening to some of the comments of others. It was great in when we talk about Humble Nation, and while I talk about other stocks, I'm going to bring up some other stocks tonight. But while we talk about other stocks, there has, I think, never been a community surrounding a stock in my history of investing as there is with Humble. I'm going to the conference at the end of September in Nashville. I never went to any conference before. And if I can, first of all, give a shout out to the folks at Humble, it would be good to lay out some information about that conference, because I think a lot of us are kind of in the dark about some of the details. Are we going to buy our own tickets to the football game? Are we all going to sit together? Where are we going to be sitting? What section? Just where are we gathering? All that kind of stuff. Otherwise, we end up doing it ourselves, and then, Bob says, I'll be at this bar, and we all meet there, and we're all scattered. So I think we need to get some details nailed down. Going back to last night on the Spaces, there was a lot of friendship shared, ideas shared. I will admit I did most of the talking, but there were, times where I was answering people's questions, and I did to the best of my ability. I was very heartened to read the reviews. They were very kind, and thank you for that. And one of the ones, and I don't have it in front of me to give a shout out to who it was, but the individual, and this goes to the point of what a smaller world we live in with information sharing. And this individual said he was listening to our talk last night, where he woke up at, like, if I remember, 6 a.m. in Dubai, and then was listening, and then went to the gym and got to work late. I think at about 9:30, if I remember, he got in the morning, and said, it was worth being late for. But aside from that, isn't it an amazing world that we can do this? And, I'm just talking on my phone in this Twitter Spaces. Everyone else who was participating, I presume, was also speaking on their phone. And it's really something to have. And so I hope you I would say in closing, thanks again. I will do another one at some point. I won't do it for 6 hours, I don't think. I think that was excessively long. But that said, I'll do some others, and we can plan it and put out the word when that will be if you want to join in. But I would hope that you would appreciate the community that we have in Humble, okay, which is pretty unique from other things, other stocks. It's, as I said to someone today, it's not like buying ExxonMobil and you get all Twitter about being a member of ExxonMobil Group. So today, in light of, I don't know what, maybe our conversation had something to do with a change in attitude, but we saw that Humble jumped 4.5 cents, up 5.88%, and to close at just under 83 cents. It had been up at various points to 83 cents. And we're looking here at a 5-day, and we go back just to last Friday when we were, I think that's 66 cents. Again, that gets to be about 1 point type. Let me, I think I can bring up this larger one. So we go to Friday, and it is, about 67 cents. So one thing I wanted to say here, folks, I don't know if I'm going to be too big there. When you see that you are at 66 cents and you go today to 83 cents, my point would be that is a gain of what, about 18 cents, 20 cents, 16 cents, about 16 cents, 16, 17 cents. That's a hell of a rate of return, and today is what, Wednesday? I'm losing track. Yeah, Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, so this is from the close on Friday. So in basically 3 days, you're up 20%. So, while this isn't getting us back to $2 or $3 or $4 or $5, when you can go in a couple of days from the mid 60s to the, approximately mid 80s cents, that's a hell of a rate of return. And even if you have your core holdings, I would say you can sometimes buy more than the core. And as I said before, let's just say for the sake of discussion, you were going to hold on through thick and thin to 5,000 shares. When it goes down to 66 cents, you might say, well, I'll buy 2,000 shares, which would be about $1,200. And even if you then took those 2,000 shares and sold them, you're going to have $1,200, which is about $1,200. $1,200 pick up a profit of $340 in a handful of days. If it goes back down, you can do that again. If it doesn't go back down, you still have your core holding of 5,000 shares. So, that's one thing where people is like, should I sell some? Should I buy some? You can kind of do both. If you hold on to your core and then buy some other blocks as trading shares, that's a way to generate some profits while you're waiting for the major move of Humble to go forward. Okay. Now, that beyond that, the what do you call it? The volume today was below the 10-day average. It was 3 million, about 3.5 million, where the 10-day average is about 6.5 million. So not an insignificant amount of volume, just not overwhelming. There was, I should say, too, last night as we were discussing in the Twitter Spaces. So we had, I should say, at one point we had 200 people online. So this was a nice gathering of Humble Nation, albeit online, but still. And there was a lot of, I would say, speculation, but I want to say it was informed speculation, kind of educated guesses, put it along those lines, not hardcore smoking gun information, but there's a lot of speculation that there are things, as I said in a video just the other day, things brewing behind the scenes at Humble that Humble is probably working on some kind of deal, so we don't know what. But they're working on your deals. They're making improvements to various services. They're making some advancements. And while none of us had anything, as I said, that we could nail down as hardcore information, we did, I should say, collectively have kind of a good amount of interest and speculation and thoughts that Humble is going to be moving with some news. Now, speaking of moving some news, something I haven't talked about for quite a while, and I still own shares, and I trust a lot of us do, and that is Forwardly. Our old friend George Sharp is the head of Forwardly, FORW, as you can see. And today, while it is also way down, as you might say, from year to date, what we've seen is that over the last number of days, it's been going up. Today it was up 3 cents, which was, let's call it 30%. So that was a good move. And here, what's interesting, as compared to the volume on Humble, Forwardly did about 3 times or so the normal average. Normal 10-day moving average is about 2.3 million shares. Today they did close to 9 million shares. And if you say, well, what's up? You may remember, and again, I haven't talked about this in a long time. You can see there on the right, the earnings are way down. The revenues are nil. Forwardly is a company it's kind of a unique company in my estimation. It's more of a venture capital firm, I'd almost say. And George Sharp, if you want to correct me, feel free to correct me because I'm somewhat just surmising here. But George bought a company a while back. It might have been 5 months ago, 6 months ago, a ventilator company. And this was in the news today. And I don't know if this is pronounced Zygan or Zygan, but Forwardly Zygan Innovation Global received significant designations under the Patent Cooperation Treaty. And it is somewhat interesting. These are like portable ventilators, and you go down to about the third paragraph. It says the PCT, which is the Patent Cooperation Treaty, makes it possible to seek patent protection for inventions simultaneously in each of a large number of countries by filing an international patent application. Such an application may be filed by anyone who is a national or resident of one of those PCT contracting states. It may generally be filed, I think that says filed, it's hard to read, with a national patent office or the contracting state. So the long and short of it is that there is news on patenting some devices that Forwardly has invested in, and so they are getting a fair amount of attention. And while we haven't covered Forwardly for a fair amount of time, I wanted to bring that up. I still own Forwardly. Obviously, I own Humble. I had and still kind of think of Forwardly as a trailer attached to a truck. And the truck is Humble and Forwardly is the trailer. George Sharp, if you want to do an interview, I'd be happy to do an interview with you. If I would kind of say that, George might really disagree with that. That's how I viewed Forwardly. Maybe we're not giving Forwardly their due. It is, of course, a lot of people in Humble land like the penny stocks. I'm not a big penny stock guy. As I said last night on the long call, someone asked me what other OTC stocks. I said I've barely ever had any OTC stocks. That Humble is really an exception. I do have, of course, Forwardly, so that's another one. It's kind of part and parcel of the Humble play. But, Forwardly, for those who want, it went down to about 10 cents the other day. And I think that is, well, not quite. I thought maybe it might have been it's not a year low. It's not even close to a year low, but it was it was 10 cents. And so when it goes up 3 cents, it's up 30 cents. So if you don't own forwardly, if you want to buy a lot of shares, some of you want to always be holding a whole lot of number of shares. And generally, I think that's a good idea. Not necessarily in penny stocks, though. But in this case, because of all that we know about forwardly, that it has the right to buy 125 million shares of Humble at 20 cents, as I recall. It's been a while since I said this. That forwardly could certainly be a big mover on a percentage basis over the coming year. And it has enough liquidity, trading of recently note over 2 million shares, today almost 9 million. So it has enough liquidity of shares being traded that you can get in and out. I ought to talk about that. I don't know that I have. You don't want to buy companies where they are so thinly traded that, if they're doing 10,000 shares a day, you cannot buy a big block of shares and get in and out of it. So that was forwardly. Now, the last thing, and this is something else I mentioned on the call last night, and I wanted to mention it to the rest of you so you're up to speed. And I need to make a little bit of an adjustment here so you can see what I'm looking at. On Tuesday, now, things can always change. Sometimes things happen and things don't come off as you want them to. On Tuesday, which will be the day, anyway, it's Tuesday, I will be interviewing. The plan is I'm going to be interviewing the CEO of Zygan. Let me see if I can just fix this. We're still not quite what I want here. So Zygan is, as you see there, about $14. And if we take a look in the last month, it has not been a good month. Zygan's earnings come out on the same cycle as Humble's, so they just had their earnings come out there. You can see they just posted a while back, but the top news story, the Zygan's Q2 earnings transcript. And if you go down, remember on the right side here on Yahoo Finance, you can see that Zygan has had an explosion in sales. Their earnings are there, although their earnings have remained flat for about 4 years. So presently, they are bringing in a profit of approximately $9 million on sales of $80 million. Back in 2019, they brought in $9 million on sales of $45 million. And you might say, well, Terry, what's the deal? Why do they have, $35 million more in sales, and they don't have hardly any more in additional profit? I'll be asking that of Mr. Sandgaard, who is the CEO who I'll be interviewing, but I can kind of tell you that one of the reasons is that they are adding, and one of the reasons I think this is a buy, and I did do one video on it, and I'll do another one, obviously, when I interview him. One of the reasons is they are adding a lot of salesmen. And the salesmen, COVID slowed them down a bit, but they added a bunch of salesmen, not just recently, I think a while back, as I understand it. And we're going to get more into the details again when I interview them on Tuesday during the day. It won't be in the evening, but I'll air that interview. The volume here is nowhere near the volume that we expect to have on a lot of stocks. Instead of doing 1 million, the volume here is today 129,000, let's call it 130,000 shares. The regular 10-day average about 300,000. So for most of you, it still has enough liquidity that you can get in and out. You're probably going to buy a handful of shares. You're not going to be buying blocks of 10,000. But that said, just to note that it's low volume. But I do think that this is something that could go much higher. And I'm just trying to show you some of the patterns here over the year. We go back over a year, and what do we had in the last year? We had a high of about $23. Where we're at 14%, should it go back to 22? You're up 50%. They're adding a lot new salesmen, not just a little bit of salesmen, a lot more salesmen, and it takes a while to get these people trained. What do? They sell devices that minimize or block pain. Now, some pain is, if you think of pain on a scale of 1 to 10, some pain is so intense that no device is going to block it, and you're going to have to be on drugs, or they put you into a coma or something. But sometimes people go and they get chest surgery. Or I had a friend here who was hit by a car recently and had to get a bunch of pins in her shoulder. She put up an x-ray, and it had looked like a carpenter was driving nails. When you look at this, there's so many screws holding her arm together. You can imagine the kind of pain that might bring, or back surgery, any number of things. And they have devices that send, as I understand it, we'll get an update, I don't know if it's an electric current or something else, but it tends to block and minimize the pain threshold. So I wanted to bring that finally to your attention and give you the heads up that I will be talking to him on Tuesday, and should have that for Tuesday nights airing on my channel here. I also hope, in closing, that this will be, as we go through the year, not every night, certainly, but that maybe over the course of the year, we can get interviews with some of the CEOs to where we are doing interviews, I don't know, over the course of the year, let's say with maybe 20 or so, 30 CEOs. Some will bring back as news warrants, but I think this is where you can get access, and I can be a service to you by bringing you access to the interviews with some of these leaders in their industry. And I think, and by the way, I should mention, if I haven't, I do own Zygan. It's not a major part of my portfolio, but it is. I am a holder of it. So when I talk about it, I own some shares. I think I bought them at about 16, so I'm down slightly. What I started to say, and I think interrupt myself before I leave this, is that this is a company who added a bunch of salesmen. It takes a while for them to get trained before they really start kicking butt and making good sales, and that they are focusing in North America. They are headquartered in Denver. Mr. Sandgaard is actually from Denmark, as I recall, but he is leading this company. And so now I think, going back to why did they have sales go up $35 million, but their revenues, their profit margins, or profits, I should say, remained at about $9 million. The reason is that all the cost of hiring and training these new salesmen. But you see already what's happening is that you're going to have these greater sales. And then as those sales grow even more, your profits are going to grow, and profits move stock price as a general rule. There's very few things that are always true 100%. All right, I've already gone. I thought I was going to go short here. I'm maybe too verbose, but I'll close out with this. And I just wanted to say, once again, thanks, folks. And again, if you want to write me, if you want to make comments, you want to ask questions, you can do that on moneyandpoliticsnow@gmail.com. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please do. You know what? We are, as I tape this, we are 14 below 8,000 followers. So can we get up to 8,000 before tomorrow? That would be great. And if you want to send me a note on Twitter, or follow me on Twitter, there is the Twitter handle. As always, I greatly appreciate you joining me and sharing your thoughts, questions, comments, and we'll look forward to talking to you again tomorrow night.